Welcome to the Success Partner Podcast. I'm Daya Naef, your host and founder of The Success Partner. On this show, we dive into the stories of attorneys, business professionals, and entrepreneurs who have navigated the ups and downs of building successful careers and businesses. From the strategies they've implemented to the challenges they've overcome, we're here to uncover the insights that can help you on your own journey to success. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Welcome back to the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef, and today we have Katy Mickelson with us here today. So excited to have her. She's just flown in from Paris specifically to do our interview today. So I can't be more overjoyed to have her.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Katy, we'll jump in. You are a storyteller as well as a family law attorney, and very much into problem solving for your clients. So tell us a little bit about how you got started, maybe some of your favorite cases.
Yeah, so I start off by saying that I'm a storyteller because I think that's really what a key to being a good divorce and family law attorney is. You know, we're of a very unique position to be in this area of law. Specifically, we're dealing with people. So we're dealing with situations where we've got to tell an individual story. So I always like to say, I'm not just an attorney. I'm actually somebody who's trying to convey the story of someone's life and family to a judge, to the other side, to whoever my audience is. So my story of how I kind of got into family law, a little non-traditional. I've talked about this with people before. My history was when I graduated from the University of Michigan, I ended up going into the field of public relations. So that was very much of a storytelling type of career. I was dealing with messaging and trying to tell stories about brands. I was very much into communications. I worked for a very large agency here in Chicago. And when I was about 29, I decided to go to law school. So gave up my career and went to Chicago Kent here in Chicago. And then between my second and my third year, I was lucky enough to get a clerking position at Beermann. And at that time, Beermann was I would call it a hybrid multidisciplinary law firm. So there was probably half family law, half other practice groups. I got introduced into the family law part of it, and it's been my home ever since. So now I'm going on 20 years since I started here. Never left, a little non-traditional. I haven't hopped around from firm to firm. So yeah, this has been my home. And, since I started out as a law clerk, I moved up to associate, senior associate, junior partner, and now I'm an equity partner. So we are a 54 attorney firm only doing family law. So we are the largest in Illinois, and I'd like to probably say in the country.
It's very interesting and unique, both your longevity with the firm as well as its specializing in matrimonial law. What's a good, interesting success story for us?
Well, there's a lot of it's difficult it's hard for me to talk about a lot of clients just because of attorney-client privilege. So I have to be very careful about what I talk about. My typical client is going to be of somebody with a higher amount of assets, maybe more complicated parenting issues. What I do generally is what people think of family law attorneys. So I help with people who are going through the divorce process. I help people who are non-married and have children together, parentage actions, prenuptial agreements, postnuptial agreements. So when people think of family law issues, I probably, they would immediately think of divorce. And actually, obviously, that's not just what family law is about. To me, the real interesting, I love a good challenge. And so my cases all present some interesting nuances. Every family is unique. So it's hard for me to pinpoint over the years, but I do have a couple cases that are very interesting to me, specifically because they're not necessarily about your typical family law issues. There are additional issues that happen in family law that not a lot of people know about, specifically issues related to non-parent visitation. We call it grandparent visitation. So dealing with parties that potentially may not be the biological parents of a child who are seeking parenting time, time with the children or child. So that's a class of cases where you really need to, I think, delve more so into the family dynamic. And it's not just about parents. It's not just about spouses. It's about actually the extended family. And so I've dealt with some really interesting issues as it relates to grandparent or non-parent visitation. Another case, I've dealt with a lot of assisted reproductive technology. That's actually
Oh,
become a very,
yeah.
very interesting area of family law. Very, very complicated, very nuanced, full of a lot of emotion, and it varies from state to state. So it's a very unpredictable area of law, and it hits on so many issues that are very difficult to talk about. And whether an embryo is should be brought under a parentage action, whether it's property. I mean, there's a lot of some really interesting issues. And last, and probably I'll tell you one of my most memorable, I handled actually an adult adoption. And the adult adoption was really neat because adoption is, most times adoption is a happy matter. When you have contested adoptions, that can certainly be difficult and very long. But this was an adult adoption. And in this particular case, the parents had actually brought this child into, as a minor, into their home, decided that they wanted to provide financial and emotional support for this child. As the child was emancipated and then was looking to go to college, and they were financially supporting this child, they wanted to make him feel he truly was their son. So they went through an adult adoption, and I was able to experience that. I was able to experience the joy that comes from uniting a family. As we all know, that family law can often be about dividing.
Mhm.
This was bringing family together. So it was really a lovely experience and very emotional.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that's great. Wow, that's very neat, and how that works out, and how it's a ceremony of sorts, to go through and to bring that all through fruition. Very
Right,
interesting.
right.
Well, so you provided me with a few little notes, and so I'm glancing down in them. I'm trying to be discreet, but I'm not being very discreet. So thank you. Thinking about the right attorney for the case. I mean, there's a bunch of different types of attorneys and a bunch of different styles and personalities. And what would make you right for a case, if you could elaborate?
Yeah. I always, when I talk to new clients or potential clients, as much as the client is interviewing me as I'm interviewing the client, there has to be a really good fit between a client and the attorney. A lot of people think that they want the loudest person in the room. They think that they want somebody who's going to file a lot of motions and be very aggressive in their case. I believe, and I've stood by this principle, that strategic assertiveness is much more beneficial to a client than being loud, than filing a bunch of motions that might not necessarily have merit. And all it really does is increase costs in a case, time, acrimony, everything that goes along with it. So I think it's very unique to everyone's case of what kind of attorney that they want to engage. I specifically subscribe to the philosophy being that I want to be thoughtful, I want to be strategic, I want to be calm. Within a storm of family law issues, the last thing that I want to be is an hysterical attorney. So I want to be a beacon of calmness for my clients. Like, I don't want to necessarily rev up the emotion because they're all feeling immense amounts of stress. So it's really it's not a service to a client to increase the temperature, which already is likely increased. So I tend to, I'm very thoughtful, I'm very thorough, very responsive, and I'm not a game player. I say it as I see it. I think the expression oftentimes people say is, "Are you a yes person? Are you a yes woman, yes man?" And I'm not really. I want to engage in a conversation with my clients, weigh pros and cons to be able to say, this is what I've seen. Have you thought about this? Cost benefit analysis, and really have an honest conversation. So being a true partner with my clients, super important to me. And they have to be able to, that has to be the type of attorney that they want to engage. And that's generally who I am as when I'm practicing.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you see it way too often where people are filing a bunch of stuff that's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be aggravating. And then, of course, yelling and screaming. And it's like, okay, that's really not going over with anybody. So what do you do? What do you do for fun? What do you like to do outside of work?
Fun. And attorneys do have fun. Let's just say that. I mean, you mentioned I just got back from Paris, which there was a business component to it. I'm active in a lot of organizations. I'm a fellow of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. The conference I just came back from in Paris was for the International Academy of Family Law Attorneys.
Okay.
So they have their conferences overseas in a number of different locations. But, I'm a family person. I've been married for 17 years and I have two kids that are a sixth grader and a freshman in high school. And so having a lot of family time is really valuable to me. And from my perspective, no family would be complete without pets. Um,
100%.
so not everybody agrees, but I do. So we have a 4-year-old English Mastiff named Archie. He's 110 pounds. And then we thought, why not add more complication to our lives? So we just brought home, and he's now going on 6 months, a miniature English cream dachshund, and Gus is 10 pounds. So the visual is amazing. But it's really funny because we just sent Gus to puppy boot camp, and he had been with Archie, our big guy, for such a long period of time that when he went to puppy boot camp, he was really good at navigating big dogs. And everybody thought, oh, you've got this 10-pound dog. He kind of looks like not a lot of people know what a miniature English cream dachshund looks like. It's kind of like a really stretched out, long, perpetual golden retriever puppy. So that's kind of what they look like. They're just
Okay.
yeah. So anyways, he was so playing with my dogs, I happen to be their person. My husband thinks, why are you the person for both? But apparently I am their person for both. So, being with my family, being able to enjoy our time together. We have a house in Michigan, so we're able to, spend some time there as a family. And then, my husband and I really love to travel. So I'm not much of an agenda person when I go on vacation. So we were just in New York, just kind of going around experiencing the sights. So I feel like life is meant to be lived and experienced and not always on an agenda, because I have a lot of agendas during my day, in what I do for my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a city like New York, it's an adventure around every corner, and just being in the moment and smelling the smells and seeing the sights.
The smells, the sights. Yep. You got to get the true New York experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I love just, having the flight and the hotel, and then everything else can just kind of play out once you drop anchor and then kind of start to explore the area. So wonderful. How do people find you?
So I have a lot of different. So I'm a big believer in the presence of social media. I'm the big believer in having accessible content. So on my website, I'm one of the attorneys listed on my website at beermannlaw.com. I also I'm very active on LinkedIn. And I have professional pages on both Instagram and Facebook. So I'm really trying to get my message out with videos and content and articles and educational materials to people through a number of different mediums, because I feel like, people need to be hit from several different ways to experience somebody and their brand. It's so important when you're hiring a family law attorney, not just to look at the credentials. All attorneys are very fond of talking about how many awards they've won and being a super lawyer and doing all that stuff. In family law, from my perspective, my brand is very much about my philosophy, my approach, my personality, of course, skill. But a lot of that, I think, is about presentation, especially if you're going to be going into a contested situation where you want to have a competent representative talking to a judge, being persuasive. You have to see, hear, experience how an attorney works, because that's really important, not only for the fit, but the presentation of your specific story. So that's why I try to really hit all different aspects of social media to be able to say, you can see my personality, not just the educational content, but you really want to see the personality of the attorney you hire.
Yeah, absolutely. To see if it's a good fit, and to be there at the right time for someone. Someone may be on LinkedIn during the day, but is that really when you're looking for a family attorney? It's probably at night after the kids have gone to bed, and you're like, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Let me see. Let
Yeah,
me scroll
right.
some social media and then see
Yeah,
somebody that I can relate to.
exactly.
Yeah. And I'm sure you get a lot of referrals from other attorneys, other practice areas that don't do
I
family.
do. I do. And, which is the biggest form of flattery. Aside from an opposing party referring somebody to me because they've known what I was like on the other side, of course, any type of referral is flattering. But a lot of attorneys who don't do what I do, I've had many times where attorneys have said, I would never be a family law attorney. I'm not quite sure how you do it and have the stomach for it. And I said, well, I mean, everybody, there's somebody for every industry. So, I definitely, and I have a lot of power partners. So I have a lot of attorneys that I work with, especially in my cases, which tend to be more complicated. I'll need an accountant. I'll need a financial advisor. I'll need a life insurance specialist so that my clients feel like they have a lot of different people on their team to address all the moving parts. So I do get a lot of referrals from those, I'll call them other team members, and they're, understanding how we all work together and, who think that I would be a good fit for potentially their client.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of moving parts and family and matrimonial. There's real estate and finances and
Yes.
debt and
Yes.
sometimes all kinds of other things. So
Absolutely.
wonderful. Well, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on the show today. Your contact information will be in the show notes. Any parting thoughts?
I guess my parting thoughts are, every family is unique, every situation is unique. And I always say to my clients, the best thing that I can be is non-judgmental about a situation. I don't come into any cases prejudging it. I think that's a disservice to my clients. I also say to my clients, make sure you feel that the fit of the attorney that you end up engaging is a good fit for your particular case. So just like every case is very different, every attorney is very different. So be selective, be careful, be thoughtful about attorneys that you work with, and be very open to communicating what your specific needs are. Don't be shy about talking to your attorney if something you feel is not being addressed or if something has to be addressed that you think is very important to your case. Attorneys want to know. If they don't want to know, they're definitely not going to be the right attorney for your case. So have the confidence you have the confidence you need to hire the right counsel for such an important decision.
Yeah, that's huge. Definitely be honest with your attorney and make sure they have all the information they need to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Well, wonderful. Thank you again. And thank you, everybody who's listening. This is the Success Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Daya Naef, and our guest today is Katy Mickelson. And look her up in the show notes, connect with her on social media. And thank you again for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Success Partner Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found some valuable takeaways to apply to your own business journey. Remember, this show is brought to you by The Success Partner, where we help small law firms and business owners achieve unparalleled success through strategic guidance, operational excellence, and effective marketing. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit thesuccesspartner.net to learn more. Until next time, keep striving for success, and I will see you in the next episode.